Hello and welcome back to the College Football Fanatics podcast. We are here after week 11 of college football, um, looking at the different games. I did a breakdown of a bunch of the games on my official College Football Fanatics YouTube channel on Monday. It was released Monday. It is on the link to the channel is down below on and it's under the College Football Fanatics official YouTube channel link. It is there are some issues with the sound, but it overall I think it's a decent episode. The sound is already fixed, and when we upload on Friday, once again, it is going to be perfectly fine. But we talked about half the games from week 11, so I'm going to be talking about the other half of the games. So we ended at Alabama and Ole Miss, I believe. So Alabama and Ole Miss played. The Alabama at the time was ranked 9th, and Ole Miss was ranked 11th. Alabama won this game by 6 points. With how Alabama has been doing this year, I'm not surprised by this score line. I think that this year has been quite a bit the struggle for Alabama. I think that they realize that. I think they also realize that they're going in somewhat of a downward trajectory at the moment. It's going to be hard for Alabama because they did not make the SEC championship this year. That honor was given to LSU and Georgia. And I think that they are really starting to understand that dynasties do not last forever, even if you have Nick Saban on your coaching staff. And eventually, all dynasties fall. We have seen Alabama teams go like 10-2 in the past. It's with Nick Saban. It's rare, but it has happened. So I'm not discounting the possibility that Alabama will once again make a resurgence, but I think that Georgia is definitely becoming a bigger challenge for Alabama to overcome. And I've said this previously in other episodes. So this is going to be a big season, and I want to see how Alabama recovers from this season. I'm pretty sure they're like number 1 in the recruiting rankings right now. They have like five stars currently. Currently committed, although that can change between now and signing day. So that process is really unpredictable. And then Ole Miss is definitely getting better in terms of their football team. Over the past few years, they've actually been ranked more consistently, and I think that's that's really helping with Ole Miss's plans. I don't think that Alabama should even have a shot at the college football playoffs. I don't think that that with a 10-2 record and no conference championship, that they should even deserve that chance. So, yeah, I think that it's important for the committee specifically to remember that this Alabama team does have 2 losses. Even if they are close losses, they are still losses compared to teams that only have 1 loss, teams like Tennessee, and teams, and soon to be either Michigan or Ohio State in a couple of weeks. So it's really important to see that the committee truly understand that idea. All right, so next up, Louisville, Clemson. I've said this before. Clemson is overrated this season. They are being buoyed by the by the playoff committee's decision to keep like their ranked wins still ranked wins, even after most of them are 8-2 and they're in the ACC. There are plenty of teams that I think are much more qualified to be ranked where they are. Um, NC State and Oregon State, and I think Wake Forest is also there. I think they're all still ranked by the committee, and they don't deserve to be. They really don't. They are not nearly as good as the rankings would lead you to believe. And I think if the playoff committee had its way, they would be, along with Alabama, basically in the college football playoffs, and that is a big issue for me because you have to remember that you know these guys are not playing in the toughest conferences. I mean, you can make the argument that the Pac-12 or that that the big that the um, that any of the other, aside from the Big Ten and the SEC, that any of the other two Power Five conferences are currently better than the ACC, and you can make a reasonably sound argument for that. I mean, the Pac-12 currently has TCU and Texas in it. I mean, how much better do you get? I mean, while Texas hasn't been playing phenomenally as of late, they show great potential, and I think that this Clemson team, I think that the um playoff committee is trying to remember the old um um Trevor Lawrence days, and they have to get that out of their minds because it is not that time anymore, and that time is past for Clemson. So Louisville 6-4. Clemson's gonna win the ACC. I mean, they are in the championship with North Carolina. I don't think North Carolina is gonna beat them. I believe that they've already played and Clemson has won that game. So I think it's just going to be a replay of that game essentially. But on to the next game. Arizona beat UCLA. Um, UCLA is very much a um, UCLA is very much a team that I think should be ranked higher than they actually are. Um, it's really quite a feat that and I think that when they play USC, we're going to see who the better Pac-12 team is. Obviously, they lost to Arizona, which by 6 points, which isn't looking good for them, and I really hope that they can turn it around. They still are 8-2. So I'm excited to see that UCLA game next week. Arizona has been struggling all season. Um, they haven't recruited well in the past few years, so I'm not surprised that they're struggling. But you hate to see it anyways. It was a school that when I was looking at colleges, actually, I considered going to, but yeah, moving on. Stanford and Utah. So Stanford has not been the same football team since Jim Harbaugh left. Utah has obviously grown in respect to Stanford. Um, they're obviously ranked 13th, and they punched the lights out of Stanford's game essentially, and it was a very easy game for Utah to win. They dominated from the second quarter on, and it was all Utah from that point on. So Maryland and Penn State. Maryland got shut out by Penn State, which is a little surprising to me. I think that Maryland has a decent offense. I didn't think that they would just be absolutely dominated by Penn State's offense and defense. So it is a little surprising, but um, not. I mean, it's surprising, and I wish it would have gone a different way. I actually wanted to see that game sort of progress into a shootout a little more. So, because I believe Ohio State plays Maryland next, and if this Penn State game was any indication, um, it's going to be a tough road for Maryland, although they are still bowl eligible. So they're 6-4. They've got a they're bowl eligible, so I'm not surprised. North Carolina beats Wake Forest 36-34. Not a surprise in that game. ACC is much closer than either the Big Ten or the SEC is from top to bottom. I like to say this because I think that it's really important. College football is a little tough to watch when the same teams are winning over and over again. And I think that it's sometimes annoying to actually see the same 5 teams win, the conference championships over and over again. This is a year that I think is rather important in that respect, because last year we saw Alabama once again win its college championship. We saw, I believe, Clemson win its conference championship, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I can't remember. We saw obviously Michigan finally overtake Ohio State to win its conference championship. So we're starting to see new blood enter the conference championship games and the college football playoff games. And I think that that's necessary in order for college football to truly grow as a brand, and as its and as its individual schools build their brands. I think without new bloods, people start to get exhausted with the continuous wins by the same exact teams. And I think that, I know the Big Ten was getting really tired of seeing Ohio State foist that trophy on their heads every year. And I think even Ohio State was a little tired of being at the top and being relatively unchallenged for its time. So I think, that was important for, the sport to get more competitive, and for more teams to start showing up at the top ranks, and allowing more unpredictability into the sport. All right. There's Illinois lost its fourth game of the season to Purdue. So that that drops them out of the college football playoff contention, or not playoff contention. Sorry, they weren't really in it. That drops them out of the top 25. That drops them out of the top 25. Sorry, they get their third loss, not fourth. That drops them out of the top 25. It weakens the strength of schedule for Michigan a little bit, because now they're not considered top 25 teams. They're still bowl eligible, so that's not really a surprise at all. Syracuse and Florida State. I was relatively surprised at the way that this game went. Florida State dominated Syracuse from the first snap to the final second. And I really hated to see it, because Syracuse in the beginning of the season showed great promise and potential. And until that Clemson game, I believe they hadn't had a loss. And I believe that Clemson game was their first loss, and they've been on a very tough losing streak since then. And I think that really affected their game, and they just hadn't really been able to come out from it. So I really wanted Syracuse to end up being like a surprise, 10-2 team, something like that. Um, so all right. So we're going to get into a topic of football, of college football, that's a little more it's a little more serious. It's a little more I shouldn't say it's a little more. It's a lot more serious. It's a little sad. Um this past week we saw all over the news University of Virginia had several of their players shot and killed while riding the bus back from a field trip. And this is a this is one of the events in a fairly I'm thankful to say a fairly short history um of tragedies in college football. Um and thankfully there are not a lot of tragedies like this happening in college football today and even in the past 70 years. And it really saddens me. So I wanted to go over this. Reminded me of you know not just the tragedies but also the top scandals of college football. So I wanted to go over the um the different tragedies and scandals that have hit college football in the past 70 or so years. I think the earliest one is like the 50s. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the the Wichita State University football team crash. So it happened in It happened in 1970, which is actually coincidentally the same year that the Marshall University plane crash, which I'm also going to talk about, happened. Um, so Wichita State was flying its football team, and it's obviously there was the sorry, I'm just trying to kind of get my thoughts. So in the 70s, 29 passengers of that uh of that so they were flying back from a game, I believe, and 29 passengers, um and the plane went down, and 29 passengers unfortunately passed away, and 14 of the casualties were Wichita State players. Um, the head coach was also killed um, in the plane crash, as well as several other staff and boosters were all killed. Um, Memorials were obviously held, and it was always a very sad thing, and it's one of the more well-known tragedies that college football has had in the past 70 years or so. And unfortunately it is not the last, and it's unfortunately not even the most horrific of the tragedies that has hit college football. The one that I always think about, and the one that led to actually a very good movie, is the Marshall University plane crash in 1970, where they were returning home from a loss against Eastern Carolina, and the plane went down, and 37 players, including 37 players, and in total 75 passengers, all died while after when the plane went down. It was a particularly horrific crash. It decimated Marshall University's um, football team. There were like 4 or 5 players left on the entire roster. And this was a time where you could not play freshmen, um, where freshmen actually had to sit out their first year. And this really devastated the town um, and of Marshall, Virginia, and in particularly the university itself. And it actually afterwards, this goes into the um, this starts to go into the movie now, but what happened afterwards was the university had to get um, special recognition and an ability to play freshman players after the plane crash. And they were eventually able to put together a football team that did not do very well. But about 10 years later, the football team started actually winning games. And I think it took about a decade for that team to actually have a winning season. So that's the most sad. That's the saddest. Those are the saddest couple of tragedies. I mean, not including the UVA one, but um, the next one is, or so. I wanted to go over a few of the I guess you could call it scandals that have hit college football. So one of the scandals is regarding Reggie Bush, um, and this was after I believe he won his Heisman. Um, he actually sold his letter of intent. And he was then stripped of his the investigation that was held by the NCAA found that he was guilty of it, and he was eventually stripped of his Heisman Trophy, and sanctions were placed against USC. He also received gifts. This gets into the idea of uh, of uh, NIL and the idea of players being allowed to receive compensation for playing football at a university. Um, it's very much one of those things that is I think this is one of the first years. It's either the first or the second year that NIL is officially allowed in college football. That's the name and image likeness, and it allows players to rightfully, in my opinion, receive money for if they want to go out and use their name and their likeness to receive money. I think they should be allowed to that, because why should a university be allowed to make billions of dollars off of their backs and their names? And why should these students not be allowed to receive anything? I mean, the biggest example of this is the Fab Five, in my opinion, at Michigan. This is the biggest example of this working completely against a student. So the Fab Five a lot of the players of the Fab Five came from very poor areas, and their families were not able to pay for food even for the students and things like that. So the Fab Five started to be allowed to take in, or started to take in money from boosters. They started to take in money from um started taking money from other sources that was not them working itself. And while I don't think boosters should be allowed to just pay college football players, I think that if say your booster has a car dealership and they say, I'll pay you $200,000 if you do a commercial for my car dealership, and you do like an exclusive commercial. Well, okay, that now they're actually truly working to get that money, and they should be allowed to do that. So though that was so that Reggie Bush scandal, I mean, this it was a similar thing happened with Cam Newton. There's a lot of these sorry, Cam Newton sold his letter of intent. Reggie Bush just received gifts and money during his time at USC. So there are a lot of these scandals that hit college football, so it's not entirely surprising. So another one of the worst things to happen in college football was the Jerry Sandusky Penn State scandal. And so Jerry Sandusky was a Penn State defensive coordinator, and accusations were later accusations of sexual abuse against players later came out. And it was even worse when when the reports came out and that it took place in Penn State football facilities. I don't think the case has gone to trial yet. I could be mistaken about that. I haven't looked at it recently, but that is one of the worst. That is one of the darkest sides of college football in the past. In the past. In the past 50 years or so. So it was definitely a black eye for college football and for Penn State, especially. I'm sure Penn State came out with a statement against Jerry Sandusky. But one of the things that led to, or that followed the Jerry Sandusky allegations, was that they fired their coach Joe Paterno, and the firing actually upset a lot of Penn State's campus, as well as a lot of the supporters for Penn State, because I think a lot of it was the fact that why are you blaming the head coach for something that a coordinator is doing? And I don't know all of the details of this, and if you guys want to talk about it, or if you guys want to learn more about it, you can obviously look it up. But what even hurt the firing even worse was that Joe Paterno was fighting lung cancer at the time. And after being fired, he decided to stay out of the public's eye, and actually passed away quite quietly, with very little circumstance, and with very little pomp and circumstance around um, around the so around his death. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But so he dies of lung cancer, and the alumni and the board of directors for um, for for the board of directors for Penn State. It really drove a wedge between them because a lot of them felt that he shouldn't have been fired in the first place. Um, and I do know some who disagreed. I know some who agreed with that, but there was definitely a wedge, and it's yet to be fully fully repaired, I should say. And then there was the next scandal that I shouldn't say it's a scandal. It was more of like a an event, essentially, was Mike Gundy going off on the media. And this is you can look up videos of this, and I actually tend to really support his takes on this, in that the media was really criticizing the Oklahoma State players and really and essentially attacking them. And in an incredible press conference, Mike Gundy just absolutely annihilates that press room. Um, and he's like, and one of the greatest things he says is, these are kids. If you want to go after somebody, I'm paraphrasing, and this is probably almost word for word, but if you want to go after somebody, go after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I can take it. He said something along those lines, and it was one of the greatest moments, in my opinion, of college football history, because it really put the media in its place, and it actually got a lot of traction in the sense that um, media should stop attacking players, kids, essentially, because these guys are they're mostly no older than like 22 years old. They're 18 to 22 years old, and they're just going out there to play football. And you can talk about the you can talk about the treatment of these players. um and it's actually, in my opinion, it has gotten better after Gundy went off at the media started to realize that they were just really lashing out at these players. And as a former athlete myself, I can understand um the detrimental effect that media attention can actually have on a team and on coherence in that team. And I think while Mike Gundy lost control, I think that it actually was a wake up call um, for the media, and I think that it was rather important. And I recommend that everybody go and watch this. Um, that everybody go and watch the sound bite, because um because if you don't, it really is one of the greatest sound bites that I have seen um be led by a head coach. And it was great to see a head coach stand up for his players. So the next thing I want to talk about is actually a bit on the lighter side. Enough of those college football, history and tragedies. I want to do more of those in the sense of I want to do more history of college football episodes. So we'll talk about, great games in college football. We'll talk about phenomenal seasons. We'll talk about, who the best teams of all time are. So I want to do that one was quite serious, and it was all kicked off because of the UVA tragedy that happened this past week. But it isn't going to be the only thing. So next up is the championship games for several of the conferences. So as we said, UNC and Clemson are going to be in their conferences, or is going to be in the games for their conferences. It'll be very, very clear, and they'll be they'll be facing each other in their conference championship. Sorry, this is a terrible episode for people to think about um my train of thought. So like I said, UNC Clemson conference championship game. I expect that it's going to go very much Clemson's way. Like I said earlier, I believe they've played already, and I believe that they haven't played already. Sorry, my bad. They have not played already because Carolina and Clemson both have no losses in their conference races. So next up, the Big 12 Conference. TCU is obviously going to be in their conference championship. I'm not sure who's going to be in the other conference, in the other game for that. It's either going to be it's probably going to be Kansas State. So and that'll be fun. That'll be a fun game to watch. Purdue has Purdue or Iowa, I believe, have a chance at becoming of going into the college the Big Ten Conference Championship. So it's going to come down to Iowa or Purdue, and it's also going to come down to Michigan and Ohio State. Who wins that game goes. Who wins the Michigan Ohio State game will represent the East, and whoever represents the West, it'll either be Purdue or Iowa. I believe Illinois, after being beaten by Purdue, is completely out of that fight. So the Pac-12, USC, and I believe Oregon. Sorry, it's USC and either Oregon or Utah, I believe, that are going to be representing their college football championship, or not championship, Pac-12 conference championship. Yeah, talked about this earlier. Either one. USC is I think proven that they're one of the best teams in that conference, and that it'll be an interesting game to watch between whoever wins that. I have great hope for the UCLA USC game. I think that game's going to turn out to be really phenomenal, and it's going to actually, I think, test USC. I'll be talking about that more on Friday on the official YouTube channel. Georgia obviously is going to be entering its conference championship, like I said, with LSU earlier. That game is slated. I think it's going to be played in Athens. I find that I have little doubt that Georgia is going to win this game. I don't think LSU has the strength to take on Georgia and win. If I had to guess, I'd say the game will probably be separated by about 10 points. And that is going to be it for today. If you guys want to watch the more refined, non-live streamed video for the College Football Fanatics podcast, you can find it over on the College Football Fanatics YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. Also in the description below is the Instagram handle for College Football Fanatics official Instagram. It would be great if you guys could go follow that Instagram channel and subscribe to the College Football Fanatics channel. We're going to be doing a more in-depth breakdown of the USC UCLA game. That's going to be the game of the week, of the weekend. And it's going to take a lot of focus. So I really want to, I really hope to see you guys there. I think it's, like I said, it's going to be a little more refined, a little more, a little more. It's going to be shorter episodes, around 20 minutes, 25 minutes each, instead of the 40 minutes to like an hour long episodes that we have here. So I'm really excited for it. The first episode's already up. You're also going to find these episodes over on the channel as well. So it's going to be, you can find it on both. I hope you guys continue to watch these episodes. The ratings. Like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps with the algorithm. Algorithm, prioritizes videos with higher likes and subscriber counts than anything else. So, um, so I wanted to thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and I hope to see you guys again next week, and I hope to see you on Friday. Have a great day.